In the beginning of July 2005, a conversation between me and the president took place. Did he personally order you to get rid of somebody? Yes, that's what I'm talking about. This person was Patarkatsishvili, and the president gave me a specific example how to assassinate him. I'm repeating his specific words. We have to assassinate him like Rafik Hariri. He was the president of Lebanon, who was blown up in his car. Badri Patarkatsishvili, the chairman of the Olympic Committee of Georgia and the presidential candidate. If it happens, it would cause huge news. We want this person to disappear. We want this to be carried out as professional as possible, so that no trail is left. So no matter who would have looked, they could not track us down. It has to be done in a way that Russia would be blamed for everything. I recorded all these as revenge for what they did to us, particularly with our boys. 5 men they killed over there. Also, you know yourself how many of our guys they handed over to the Russians. The law officer who appears in this tape is likely Giat Gebuadze, also known as the Master. Since I was sentenced to 8 years in prison and had no visible prospect, I negotiated a deal with them in return of freedom. Don't you have anything on Patarkatsishvili, somehow to set him up, that motherfucker? Patarkatsishvili, the Jew, imagine what kind of mafia he is in. He is a body of Bush's brother. I'm telling you, bro, if we would not get rid of that man, he will fuck all of us in the ass. Today, the last thing we need are the chiefs. Staying on the path we laid down a long time ago, we should achieve to form a government in our country, which will be a government of the people. The authorities declared Patarkatsishvili an enemy of the nation. We've launched a preliminary investigation into the criminal case of preparation of a plot to forcefully change Georgian constitutional formation. Patarkatsishvili was forming serious paramilitary units to overthrow the government. In charge of the whole scheme was the deputy chief of Russian security service, Kolmogorov. I feel the need to state that every secretly recorded tape, which was aired by the mass media, represents a provocation inspired by the authorities and has been fabricated to discredit me. Patarkatsishvili died in London on February 13, 2008. The cause of death still unidentified. The Georgian authorities forged Patarkatsishvili's will and by a fraudulent scheme repossessed his TV company Imedi, which he had bequeathed to the public. The authorities also repossessed his other assets like Standard Bank, Rustavi Steel Plant, Imedi Media Holding, etc. The disputes regarding Patarkatsishvili property are still going on in the international courts. Turquoise sky, emerald land, my home, my native soil. Forever yours, I lived for you, leaving to you my morning soul.
We were
told a moment ago that special troops have invaded TV company Imedi. They broke down the door and blocked all exits. What are they saying? Why? I don't know. They don't give any explanation. They were inviting each other now to go down to a bar and have a drink. We are on the air so far, but guests just came, though. Turn it off. It is off. The air is off. The Saakashvili regime took total control of the national TV channels, Rustavi 2, public broadcaster, Imedi, PIK, and Ajara TV. Real TV and Sakartvelo TV channels were launched by the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Defense. The insolvent TV companies, critical of the government, were closed. The method used was identical. Raid the building with special troops, paralyze channel transmission, and execute a repossession of the properties. Iberia, Channel 9, 202, Mzee TV stations stopped their transmission. National movement declared a war to the freedom of speech. The Rustavi 2 correspondent, journalist David Kakulia, is beaten on Rustaveli Avenue. During the crackdown on demonstrators, police forces physically assaulted him. Right in front of me, they beat up the TV Imedi journalist with batons and shouted, "You are Badri's dog. What else did you expect?" Georgian authorities have become the same as in Lukashenko's Belarus. They were becoming more aggressive after finding out that we were journalists. And it could be said, they were precisely shooting at us and beating us even more brutally. They saw perfectly well that my colleagues wore signs, press, and despite it, still were shooting toward them, yelling, threatening them with batons, and maximally trying to prevent their work or simply take away their equipment. We were hit by about 40 bullets. Besides, I had my ear torn off all the way to the cartilage. In 2011, 4 well-known photographers were arrested on accusation of espionage. Among them was a private photographer of the president. I don't know details of this case. They wouldn't have made an arrest without you. I found out half an hour before that he was going to be arrested, literally. And before that, the case already was ready. In other words, case could be prepared without me, and that is correct. Because cases are prepared against my personal photographer and against my relatives too. Lots of my relatives were under investigation and they had problems. The real reason for the arrest of these photographers pertained to distribution of photos of the police crackdown on the night of May 26, 2011 and the 2008 August War. Even though the investigation was made public, neither secretly recorded phone conversations nor the so-called suspects' confessions obtained through pressure could prove these photographers engaged in espionage. Mostly we had to show how our troops were pulling out, population attitude. Due to the protests of Georgian journalists, international pressure and the White House's involvement, state authorities were forced to make a deal. The accused photographers were fined and released without any real charges filed or guilt proven. On November 30, 2011, Saakashvili, using proven methods, tried to seize the last independent TV channel, Maestro. The police occupied the company building, journalists were kicked out, and the property was seized. European Court of Human Rights. Second section. Case of Enokidze and Grigoriani versus Georgia. Judgment. Strasbourg, April 26, 2011. Final. The court cannot but conclude that Sandro Grigoriani was subjected to particularly cruel, life-threatening, inhuman treatment. The court is struck by how the different branches of state power, the Ministry of the Interior, the Public Prosecutor's Office, the Prisons Department, the President of Georgia, all acted in concert in preventing justice from being done in this gruesome homicide case. The court is struck by the fact that even the Minister of Interior, upon learning the facts implicating his subordinates and his wife, didn't immediately remove the file from the hands of his ministry. The court is further struck by the prosecution authorities' failure to elucidate the circumstances in which Sandro Grigoriani had received numerous wounds to various parts of his body, in particular on the throat. The prosecution authority didn't take the trouble to investigate exactly how, with what sharp weapon, and by whom amongst the four accused persons those wounds could have been inflicted. The court is struck by the fact that on November 24, 2008, the President of Georgia pardoned state agents convicted of such a heinous crime. He who allows oppression shares the crime. Erasmus Darwin.